Wednesday, June 17th, Vox Novus's 15 Minutes of Fame live streams harpist Danielle Kunst, playing 15 one-minute works written especially for her by 15 composers from around the world. She tells us, dedicated to helping composers, harpists, and audiences experience new music for the harp. And now I get to bring online Danielle and Robert Voisey. Let me bring in Robert first because he's hosting Danielle. And then I will bring in Danielle Kunst, harpist extraordinaire. Welcome to Access Arts Live, Danielle.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hi, John. Thank you for having us.
Hello, Robert. For those of you, I didn't say anything about Robert. Robert Voisey runs Vox Novus, and Vox Novus is dedicated to promoting new works like nobody's business. And one of the things they do is something called 15 Minutes of Fame, which I believe, Danielle, you have already done. Is that correct? Mm-hmm. I took a look at your website, Danielle, which talked about how you're quoting you, dedicated to helping composers, harpists, and audiences experience new music for the harp. And I thought it was really interesting, the blog that you have, mm-hmm. which has things on it like, quote, understanding the range of the pedal harp, a composer's guide. So tell me about what it's like to work with composers, or because you actually do work with composers, right?
Yeah, no, that's a big passion of what I try to do. I really started as an undergraduate student because in my theory classes, a lot of my colleagues were composition students. So we started talking about, harp, and they wanted to write me music, started trying to play the music and realized there's a big gap in understanding of, the harp and how to write for it and all the differences between the harp and the piano and like all of these challenges that come into writing for the harp. So I dug into some of the resources that were out there and just realized that there's a lot lacking. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Some of the reasons is because the modern pedal harp is a fairly recent evolution. So it takes a while for the resources to catch up with it and for people to, troubleshoot and figure out like the best practices in writing for the harp. So like over time, as I've been working with composers, that's really a gap I've been trying to fill, both with, one-on-one interactions and then also creating YouTube videos and the blog, where I just try to, lay some of the groundwork, because I don't want to tell composers like, you have to write this way, you have to do it exactly this way. But we want to start with an understanding of like the framework of, how does the harp function differently from the piano, for instance? How do you want to approach it? How do you best utilize it? And then you can bring your creativity from a place of informed understanding that you can then spring off of and, get creative and try all the different things rather than starting from, more of a piano perspective or more of like a violin perspective and just writing from it just the way that you would write for another instrument, because it's not the same as the piano. So
you get composers who approach the harp with the idea that in some way it is like a piano. Is that because like if you put a harp on its side, flat on its side, it would be like piano string?
One of my early viral Instagram posts was the harp is not a sideways piano. But the reason it's so similar is because the layout is similar. It has a very similar range. We read off of the grand staff, just like the piano. We use two hands. So there are a lot of similarities that you start with, but there's also a lot of differences. And, the resonance, the harp is rings. You have to then come back and stop the sound, versus the piano, you play a note, you take your hands off, it stops, unless you're manually sustaining the sound, either by holding the key down, using the damper pedal, things like that. So it's a very different instrument, but there are a lot of similarities. So it is helpful for composers to be like, oh, this is what works, this is what doesn't, this is what's similar, this is what's different. So it's just, there's a lot to unpack in writing for the harp.
But my question would be, if you could, is there one basic thing that composers tend not to know about the harp before they start composing for it?
So I think the big thing is probably the resonance issue. Which is? I started to because that's like one of my big pet peeves right now is people write for the harp with the expectation that you have to keep playing it in order to produce sound. So on the piano, it's like you want to play more notes in order to produce more sound. Yes. On the harp, it's kind of the opposite. If you keep playing more notes, you're having to then redampen those notes to be able to then play more notes. So it's like more is not always better on the harp. There's a lot of natural resonance that you have to work with to let it ring and let it speak for itself.
Okay,
So
it has more natural resonance than a piano.
exactly. So like if you play a note on the harp, it's just going to keep ringing.
Let's move on to this particular concert. Okay, we have like a series of 15 different authors, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Exactly.
So Robert put out a call to his worldwide network of composers. Is this a globally representative group of composers? I mean, do you have people from different countries in this group?
Yeah. And Robert might also know some of these composers a little bit more, but there are, there's people from Europe. There's, I think, one composer's from Mexico.
Okay, so I have the whole list. I have it on your website. So you've got Ali Arab, who's Iranian. Then there's David Bone, who's looks like Wisconsin.
That's right.
Michael Coleman,
Florida and Pensacola.
Okay, and then you have Pablo Fideli, that's Argentinian born, but he's in Florida too. Michael Goodman, Sandro Montalto.
He's in Italy.
David Peoples.
He's in the United States.
On a balcony in the forest, it says. Greg Pfeiffer.
Also a Midwestern composer.
Kevin Rose. Now, I imagine you had more choices than the ones that were picked, right? So you made a selection?
Yeah, so if I remember right, there were over 60 submissions that we had to sort through. And because the harp is like such a challenging instrument to write for, and we had such a large number of submissions, I had to really just kind of go through and pick the ones that worked on the harp.
The ones that are most playable.
Yeah, exactly. Because with a large number, there wasn't time to really go back and forth with the composers to make edits and revisions. So we really had to just stick with the ones that worked as is.
Were you pleased with what they came up with?
I was. It was really fun playing through them. And I think you'll enjoy the set tomorrow because it's a really unique set of music. There's a lot of variety, but I think it all flows really well as well. It feels cohesive.
Is this, Danielle, is this musical, or is it jagged edge, or is it a mix, or what are we going to be hearing in those
You're going to hear a large variety. So that was part of the fun that I had with picking the submissions, because I wanted to not just have them all sound the same.
Right.
And that's part of what I love so much about contemporary music is it's not just all one style of music. It's music that's written by people today. So you have contemporary music of so many different like styles and flavors. Some use more atonality, others use more different types of tonality, others use lots of crazy rhythms, others are more straightforward. There's just so much variety. And I think that's what you're going to see with tomorrow's performance. There's some that are very lyrical, there's some that are very rhythmic, there's some that use a lot of extended techniques, there's some that really rely more on lyrical playing, traditional playing styles. So there's a lot. So if you're not someone who's like, oh my gosh, I love contemporary music, and you're still going to find something that you like. And there's 15 songs. They're not all going to sound exactly the same. So there's going to be something for everyone there.
Yeah. And if you don't like it, it's going to change.
You just wait 1 minute.
Yeah. Will you just play the music, or will you do any conversation before and after?
We're going to do some conversation after.
Good.
Yeah. There's going to be some conversation afterwards.
Good. You want to do that to give people a chance to interact. Thank you so much, Danielle, for taking time out. Thanks again, Robert, Danielle.
Thank you so much.
Great to have you.